Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Romcast. My name is Dan Williams from Range of Motion, and today we are lucky enough to be joined by Strongman competitor, athlete, and coach Dan Macri. Dan is also one of the subject matter expert coaches at the upcoming Range of Motion Athlete Camp in September. Dan, thanks for joining us this morning.
Absolute pleasure to be here again.
For those people who don't know you, who maybe haven't worked with you before, tell us a little bit about your background as a coach and as an athlete.
Look, always, as I think it goes with most people, starting as an athlete, started competing in powerlifting from the age of 15, competed for about 4 years before I was introduced to Strongman and decided I wanted to give that a shot, especially coming from an athletic background playing rugby. I liked the fact that there was the movement involved there as well as the strength. Competed in Strongman on paper till the beginning of last year, but realistically, due to injury restrictions, 2015 was the last year that I actually had a competitive season in. Unfortunately, injuries got the better of myself, but on top of that, still kept coaching, promoting, and judging, and still highly actively involved in the sport still to now.
Talk to us about some of your achievements in the strongman world in terms of competitions you've been in, some of your results in these comps.
Best results I have, I've competed Australia's Strongest Man 5 times, second twice, and unfortunately by the narrowest of margins both times. 2015, did manage to get a couple of professional competitions under my belt. My best result was 7th at the Australian Arnold Classic, where I managed to get a couple of top placings in a couple of events and have a good showing for myself there. But that's probably the main highlights. That and 5 wins at Western Australia Strongest Man before putting that aside to focus on the higher level competitions and focus on promoting in WA.
Excellent, cool. And it's so good to see you now still involved in that strongman scene and involved in the promotion side of stuff, which is really good. I guess it's in your blood, hey?
Oh, 100%. And I mean, although I'm not competing as actively as what I previously had, I get a really good kick out of seeing the sport grow and seeing other people achieve and seeing where the sport will be ending up and is ending up.
Great. So I want to keep this pretty simple today. Basically, in this series of interviews that we're running with a lot of our subject matter expert coaches, what I would like to know is the easiest way or the sort of lowest barrier to entry that people can take to improve their ability in the sport of strongman, but also to be able to take as much as possible from the sport of strongman to become better sort of well-rounded athletes. So what I would love to ask you is, do you have 3 really simple, easy tips that people can use to improve their performance by 10%, and maybe an example of each? So what would your first tip be, Dan?
First tip, honestly, is just give it a try. There's a lot of people that I come across that are, telling me they want to get into strongman, they want to do this, they're training to compete in strongman. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, come down and train. Come lift a stone. Come carry a yoke. And their immediate response is, I'm not strong enough for that yet. I haven't hit this number. It doesn't matter what number you've hit. Our stuff's pretty scalable now. We've got yokes as light as 35 and stones as light as 20.
Yeah.
We've got kids that come down and have a bit of a play with them. So if they can, anyone can. First thing is just get involved, have a try, see what you think of the sport. I mean, trust me, look, not every sport's for everyone, let's be honest. Come down, give it a try. If you don't like it when it's light, you're not going to like it when it's heavy. So come down, have a play, find out whether it's for you. No one wants to go through 8 months of training for something just to find out they don't like it in the end. But the thing is as well, it's fun. I haven't had a single person come down and say they don't like it and don't want to do it. Lifting big rocks is cool.
Yeah, and I think it's fun because it has that novelty value to it. It's a little bit different than a beautiful balanced barbell or a kettlebell. There's a bit more sort of self-exploration there, and it's, as you say, it makes it really fun.
Go on.
Yeah, no. After you, mate, go for it.
Look, I think the second thing is like you said, take advantage of the fact that not everything is nice and balanced and easy. lifting something that's, say the stone's a great example. It's not a balanced, easy object to lift. You have to, awkwardly work your body around it. You put yourself into what are normally disadvantageous positions. But by being stronger in those disadvantageous positions, when you come back to doing something that's, a nice balanced barbell for a deadlift or a clean, you've got that postural strength to pull yourself into those better positions to make sure your technique maintains. I haven't found a single person yet who, hasn't got better through, doing some awkward lifts. There's a lot of more and more people that I've been coaching which have more powerlifting orientated goals, but I still encourage them to do not a full strongman training cycle, but to incorporate some movements, particularly your heavy carries like your yokes and farmers, and then a loading event into their programs, just purely for the purpose of working on core and postural strength to help them stay more upright, keep their positions better, and it's a different form of overload as well. So yeah, use these awkward objects to your advantage in terms of what they can do for you that a barbell can't.
Yeah. And I think it's really got a lot of applications for health as well. I mean, we look at this in terms of a performance-based sport, which of course it is, but all those little stabilizing muscles and correcting these imbalances, I mean, that's got huge benefit for injury prevention and for long-term health and longevity over just doing these very standard single plane movement patterns that a lot of people would do with a barbell.
Oh, exactly. I mean, look, most clients that people deal with, or most people that are training, rather, is probably a better way to put it, aren't trying to, get to the Olympics or the CrossFit Games or World's Strongest Man. Most of them are trying to improve their lifestyle. And often things that we might have to do in terms of everyday life, like move a couch or, lift up some heavy boxes, there's not a nice, easy bar for us to grab onto. So having a bit of ability to kind of deal with some uneven loads and, some awkward objects is going to help improve basic quality of life as well.
So we've talked about those first two tips. The first is just get started, and the second is to get that benefit with these unusual, more novel movement patterns. Talk to me about an example of someone that you have worked with who, if we jump back to this first tip that you gave, someone you've worked with who has just got started, they've taken that first leap and has seen a lot of benefit from it.
Look, plenty of stories to tell, but probably the best example is Renee McLennan Henry, who trains who coaches out of CrossFit Long Haul.
Mm-hmm.
Years back, she just noticed the sport. She's, I think, she liked the idea of lifting heavy. She's not as much of a fan of doing cardio. And goes, hey, this looks like a bit of fun. I wouldn't mind giving it a shot. Literally just encouraged her, come down, give it a try, see what you think. Like a lot of people, hesitant at first, but came down, loved it, and she's been to the Arnolds twice now. She's been to a couple of international competitions and just improving continuously. And funnily enough, and she's actually sort of even commented that her CrossFitting's gotten significantly better as a result of it as well now.
Right.
So
yeah,
she's doing well.
So that brings us to the second tip you gave, which is lift these novel implements, do these slightly different movements. Talk to me about an example of someone who's really benefited from that. Maybe someone who's had some sort of benefit to their life or their health, or maybe someone who you've been training as a powerlifter, for example. You've implemented some strongman work into what they've done and seen an improvement in maybe other related areas.
I'll probably actually just go back to general well-being and lifestyle stuff more so here, because that's for myself where I'm sort of trying to branch a little bit more into as well at the moment, sort of get it bring strongman to everyone. My dad is actually was suffering from quite a bit of back pain while working. And sort of struggling to get along, and sort of said, look, well, let's set aside a little bit of time, let's do a little bit of work together, and set him up a real simple program, which was basically just squats and squats and stones. That's all he had. So Loaded, backloaded movement, where it was, keeping himself upright, keeping himself tight. And then the idea of the stones was teaching him how to really engage everything through his back to actually keep it tight so he could keep himself more upright. Few weeks of that made massive improvements. Was able to get through work without having his back pain all day. And I think for him, it just came down to activation and muscular patterns that he wasn't using.
That's great. Yeah, I also trained with my dad. He trains at Range of Motion, and it's so good seeing the changes that people can make pretty quickly. And when it's your own family, of course, it's all the more special, isn't it?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Take us to your third tip, Dan. What's your final tip?
Look, the third tip is kind of relates back to the second a bit, but it's see opportunities where you can use these all the strongman lifts within your own training. And I touched on this during the module last year. I feel that's one of the best ways for strongman to be used. Like I said, it's fun, it's different, it's interesting. And if you start breaking it down, look, the muscles you work in a yoke are pretty much the same as the muscles you work in a squat. What you're using in a stone is what you're using in a deadlift. What you're using in, when you're doing like an axle or a log is the same. It's pretty much the same that you're using when you're doing a clean and jerk. At times, you're going to get bored with your training and you just want variety in your training. If nothing else, use them for a bit of variety. Take squats out for 3 weeks. Mentally give yourself a rest from that movement pattern. Grab some farmers or a yoke and move with a bit of weight. And you're still loading your quads, you're still loading your glutes, you're still getting everything doing some work. You're just using a different movement pattern. You're giving yourself a mental break.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you on that. I think people's training will have a certain desired stimulus, so a session will be programmed, but it's very easy, as you say, to say, well, instead of squats, we're going to do yokes. Instead of deadlifts, we're going to do stones. And even if you're using this as a conditioning piece, maybe someone who's doing this at a higher intensity, as opposed to just a strength piece, they get a huge amount of benefit there because not only do they get this exposure to a novel stimulus, but there's no downside because they're still getting the conditioning. It's not like you lifting stones instead of a deadlift is going to be any less fatiguing on your body, on your cardiorespiratory system. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. I would love to see more of that implemented.
Oh, 100%. And the good thing is, like I said, things are pretty scalable. I mean, doing something for much higher volume at 50% is a totally different stimulus to doing it 90% for the sets of 2. And that's a cool thing about strongman stuff, particularly things like your yokes, your farmers, sandbag carries, because you've also got that distance element there as well. It's pretty scalable to any goal, really.
Yeah. Do you have an example of someone who's been able to take what would be maybe their traditional training and implement some of these strongman elements and maybe some success that they've had?
Yeah, look, probably bringing it back to my family, the best, most recent example was my brother. He'd been competing in bodybuilding for a couple of years, and honestly, it was more of a mental fatigue thing than anything else. And unfortunately, the nature of what's required for bodybuilding training is pretty monotonous and can sometimes get a bit repetitive. I was like, look, and he was getting to the point where he wasn't sure whether he really wanted to continue with bodybuilding or what he wanted to do. I was like, well, come down, do a couple of sessions on Saturday with us for a month, just break it up, do something different, and then you can figure out what you actually want to do. And even we modified everything we're doing for him to keep it more hypertrophy based, shorter rest periods, longer duration, longer distance carried, more reps per set, just to keep it in line with what his goals were currently at that point in time. And even for himself, he said, look, just having that mental break and, hey, yeah, I'm still, working my lats, but I'm working differently because it's, hugging a log tight to my body, or lifting a sandbag as opposed to doing lat pull downs and seated rows.
Yeah,
it's great just to have that a bit of a different movement pattern you're moving for, and just to feel fresh.
Yeah, I love it. Great example. So as I mentioned at the top today, we're lucky enough to have you coming back to the Range of Motion Athlete Camp to present your module on Strongman as you did last year. Last year's attendees at the camp actually rated your module a 9.42 out of 10. So it was absolutely one of the most popular modules of the weekend. People came away with so much. for those people who are attending this year's athlete camp, Dan, what can they expect to be working on with you?
Look, I think we had a great time last year, and I think everything we went through was great. I'm going to bring back pretty much all the same stuff we had last year, but I'm also going to bring a couple of extra new things down for people as well.
Right.
That way, for anyone who's new, we can go over those basics again. For anyone who was there last year and wants a refresher on those basics, we can go over those again. But for anyone who was there last year and they want to, expand on their skill set, we can have a few new things for them to work on as well.
Great. So talk to us about some of the toys that you're bringing down for us to play with.
Well, like last year, we've got Yokes, Farmers, the Stones, and the Axle. A couple of new things that I wanted to bring down was the dumbbell press. Being a bit different, being an overhead press, but obviously it changes things up a little bit because it's just one sort of side of the body that you're actually actively pressing with. The way you balance, the way you move with it is a little bit different. So that's the first extra thing that I wanted to bring down, and then the second thing that I wanted to do in terms of newer stuff was the axle deadlift, which it changes up the mechanics of your deadlift a little bit, and it does feel slightly different, or it does feel slightly different to how a rack pull is going to feel. It's not exactly the same. I personally feel working from height in this way actually translates better over to your deadlift because you can keep more normal deadlift mechanics, whereas I always find that off blocks or from a rack, it just feels to me like it loads differently.
Yeah.
So it's a good alternative to sort of try there as well. And the last thing I want to do is use a lot of the implements that we already had down there last year and expand upon what we did there. So, work on things like, sandbag carries for distance as opposed to just the loads, and also combine things like, say, the yoke and the farmers into a medley, adding a different stimulus there as well.
Great. It's I think one of the reasons that it was so popular last year is because it really does have this novelty value, and it's one of the points we've talked about, but it's so exciting and fresh and novel and new, and yeah, I can't wait to learn from you more again. I picked up so much myself personally last year, and like I said, it was a huge success. So we're super lucky to have you back on the coaching team.
Can't wait to be back down. It was a great day last time.
It was indeed. Before we sign off for the day, Dan, if people want to have a look at some of the stuff that you're doing as a coach and an athlete, maybe online, on social media, what is the best way for them to find you?
Best place to contact us is just through WA Strongman on Facebook. Pop us a message there and we can get anyone started with any information they need at all. We've got a great FAQ that we've got up there, which is a good introductory guide on getting into competitive strongman. But on top of that, if anyone wants to, look at doing some more strongman training, like I said, for a lot more general health benefits or anything else as well, pop us a message and we'll lead you in the right direction as well.
Excellent, Dan. You're a legend. Thank you very much for your time today. I can't wait to work with you again in September.
Absolute pleasure. Can't wait to be down.
Thanks, mate.
Have a great day.